everything we work for, anything we dream, all things sacred and sweet to us.
Every year, Canada receives thousands of immigrants that call the Greater Toronto Area their home. As they acculturate into Canadian society, they bring with them cultural appetites for ethnic foods. Among these foods, ethnic vegetables play a vital role in their diets. But how is this relevant in Ontario today? Well, Professor Glenn Filson from the University of Guelph, who heads the ECVOntario research team, explains how he got himself researching the ethnic vegetable market.
The reason I got involved in this was that Bamadelli Adekunle and Sridharan Setharatnam, my collaborators, came to me and said that FarmStart was lacking in information about which ethno-cultural vegetables were in greatest demand. We didn't know what the total amount of money was for the effective demand. We then approached OMAFRA, the Toronto Food Policy Council, the GTA Agricultural Action Committee, got funding and went out and did a study of 750 South Asians, Afro-Caribbeans, and Chinese, randomly sampled using 10 graduate students throughout Toronto in various ethnic stores. And we determined that the demand was $61 million a month, over $700 million a year demand for these vegetables, most of which are now being brought in from offshore.
Consumers of ethno-cultural vegetables consume a wide variety of ethnic vegetables, but they have to source them from many places as their availability is dependent on imports and the little local produce.
My parents came from Hong Kong, so they have a Cantonese Chinese diet, and primarily we eat bok choy, choy sum, napa, and bean sprouts at home, as well as some other mixed Chinese vegetables.
We get okra, eggplants, and a lot of leaf vegetables that we can get in Sri Lanka, and also different beans, long beans, yellow beans, different beans, and different pumpkin varieties, butternut and different pumpkin varieties, and drumstick. I don't know whether you have seen, it's common vegetable in Sri Lanka. So many Sri Lankan type vegetables we buy.
African eggplant, we call it nyadwa, the plantain, of course, white yam, not Negro yam, white yam, Ghana yam, black beans, the dried ones. Those are some staples that I would normally pick up.
Eggplant, zucchini, or some people would know that as squash, red peppers, rapini. We have leafy green vegetables as well.
My husband does most of the shopping. He hits all the cultural stores. So he would buy bitter gourd, he'll buy the turnips. It's more fruits that he enjoys buying, the traditional or the more cultural vegetables than the fruits. The fruits are more available than they were 20, 30 years ago. So you can get them in a lot more places.
How did we get involved in our work on ethno-cultural vegetables? I guess the original push for us to get involved came from the Ontario Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association. We were approached by their CEO, Art Smith, who said, look, the vegetable markets are changing. There's a huge opportunity potentially out there in terms of the Ontario vegetable growers accessing a new market, recognizing the fact that increasingly the demographics of the GTA, Ontario, Canada overall are changing.
In Canada, we are restrained by the weather because we have a growing season which is short. And so we start growing things from May till the end of October. And so this results in a lot of import of fruits and vegetables from other countries.
The lack of locally produced ethno-cultural vegetables created ethnic food stores to arise to provide ethnic consumers with those vegetables they most preferred.
We started our business in 1989. The reason for us to start in this business was it was a lack of ethnic produce and a lack of ethnic groceries at that time. My family itself had to travel over like 50 kilometers. At that, we lived in Okra, we would have to go downtown Toronto or something like that to get the produce, get the groceries. So we opened our first store in Oakville at that time.
When I came here, I tried to look for the food. That was about almost 6 years ago. I tried to look for the food that's close to the food that I was used to, the food from Uganda, and I couldn't find anything. And then I realized many communities had their little shops where they could get their food specialties. So I thought, you know what, I'll start one for East Africa.
We're faced now with a changing consumer population that likes different foods. We all like foods we grew up with. I think that's a given. So the new demographic, the new Canadians, want foods which are different to what we consumed, say, what were consumed extensively, say, 20 years ago. So in order to supply to that new and emerging, evolving consumer market, the growers need to change what they grow.
Yeah, the ethno-vegetable capacity is very low, I would say. The ability for people from many cultural backgrounds to find the kind of food that's familiar to them is, I think, a difficult situation right now. But it's also a wonderful opportunity to develop farmers' ability to grow these vegetables and make them available. My parents are immigrants, and when they first came to this country, they had trouble finding the foods that they were interested in. And fortunately, a fellow immigrant started a seed nursery, and he's now got his grandchildren working with him, and my parents' grandchildren are still buying from that seed nursery. So it's expanded greatly, the cultures that are coming to Canada. Toronto's a very multicultural city, and there's a wonderful opportunity not only for people to market it, but also the ability to grow these vegetables, to learn the skills in growing new vegetables in our landscape. This is a huge market niche for farmers in Ontario. We know, for example, that right now a lot of production of tobacco is being replaced by other opportunities, but this is one of the best opportunities that we can think of because we have the perfect soils especially just north of Lake Erie in the Norfolk area. But also these can be grown south of the St. Lawrence, in the Winnipeg area, parts of probably the Maritimes, but definitely near to Vancouver. So there are many ethno-cultural vegetables like okra, bitter melon, bok choy, and so on that can definitely be grown in Canada.
A small percentage of these vegetables are produced locally by small as well as a few large-scale farmers.
The Holland Marsh in Ontario has always been a place where immigrants come to farm. So it was established in the 1930s, and there have been many waves of immigrants since then. So Chinese vegetables have been grown here for 40 or 50 years, and over the years there's been a wide range of other vegetables that we would consider ethnic vegetables, things like edible amaranth. I guess edible chrysanthemum probably falls into the Chinese vegetable category, but there are people from all parts of the world, including China, Vietnam, Egypt, Africa, wide range of different groups, and many of them grow the crops that they like to eat.
This farm, the McBean farm, it's called Incubator Farm, and the idea is that farmers who would like to get experience growing in Canada or to start a small business have access to some land and infrastructure such as a tractor and irrigation system and smaller tools like rototillers to help them get access to this equipment without having to spend a lot of capital. And so the farmers stay here for up to 5 years and try to develop their growing techniques and also their marketing plans. So it's trying to give farmers a step into becoming independent small business people.
Because we come from the background there where they grow ethno-cultural vegetables like okra and like eggplants and bitter melon. So that's why we have tasted back at home. Ethno-cultural vegetables, like our ethno-cultural people don't want to pay good money for organic vegetables. But for mainstream people, they have to be made aware about their recipes and kind of things. If they need to be sold where our market is. We usually sell our vegetables to people who are health conscious and wanted to buy organic vegetables. Ethno-cultural vegetables do have a market.
Okay, well, it's interesting you talked about the ethnic vegetables because we have a section in the farmers market that we call I call it the Chinese row. It's 200 row. There's a lot of Chinese growers up in the Bradford and the Marsh area that have been selling Chinese vegetables, bok choy and the rest of it, for years and years. So, and you look at the cosmopolitan nature of the Ontario marketplace, you're going to have Orientals, you're going to have people from all over the world. They're going to know what's good bok choy and what's bad bok choy. If you can grow bok choy in Ontario, pick it in an afternoon and bring it in the next day and sell it on the marketplace, then people are going to buy more and more of it, and you basically capture it such that a lot of the warehouse tenants will cut back on the importation of those products because they know it's available in the farmer's market in season. They can't compete. So the trend for more and more ethnic vegetables are basically mirror the change in population, the ethnic mix of Ontario.
We live in a society that's very multicultural, and a lot of residents of suburbs actually participate in urban agriculture by growing ethnic vegetables in their backyard. And for instance, I have family friends that grow bok choy, Chinese vegetables, and some of them, even Korean families, they would grow sesame plants in their backyard, and they would use that to make food from their own culture.
What can we grow in Canada to sort of feed into, supply that growing market, recognizing that we may be able to supply that market for, I'm going to say 4+ months per year. So what can we grow? What sort of specs do those vegetables have to be grown through? What are the pathways to access those markets? Basically understanding a little bit more about the consumer. What do they look for in the vegetable? So it's a multifaceted question, and I'm really glad that there's a whole group of us working together on this. You know, the guys from U of G, OMAFRA, and ourselves to try and answer different pieces of this quite complex questions. Bottom line is to generate sort of a new economic opportunity for Ontario growers and beyond to supply fresh produce into the market. Of course, as we know, that's a market that currently is satisfied by produce which is pretty much 100%, not quite but close enough, satisfied through imports. So how can we replace those imports?
Because of the limited number of farmers involved in producing ethno-cultural vegetables, those farmers left to produce them face major agronomic challenges.
There are challenges in every kind of agriculture, and with new crops sometimes there are even greater challenges. One of them, of course, is crop protection, and getting products registered to control insects and diseases and weeds on minor crops takes a long time, and it can be even more difficult than it is on more conventional vegetable crops. That's been a challenge to us. A grower will bring in a crop to the research station. We can identify what the disease is, but there may not be anything registered that the grower can actually use.
For farmers, because we're doing organic production, we're not doing things on a large scale, and it's not as mechanized. So having sufficient farm labor, and being able to have enough capital to pay the labor. So I'd say that's one of the main ones. It's a lot of involved when you have to do your own marketing and do all your growing too. So it's a full-time job.
Okay, talking about some of the local produce, probably 90% of the stuff that we sell, we grow ourselves, partners with some farmers. Some of the other ones we just buy outside. And we've been doing that for actually back when the company started. So we have a good relationship, so they know what we want and they know what the quality we expect. But you have to remember that the Mother Nature at times does not allow for us to have, top quality.
Importing these vegetables comes at an environmental cost from the thousands of food miles vegetables cross to get to Canada. Often vegetables have to be brought in quickly as freshness and quality of the vegetable are affected.
In terms of the transportation, the vegetables that are mostly affected in terms of negative effects, nutritional qualities, etc., are the leafy vegetables. For example, bok choy can be damaged by transportation. So for example, here you see that the leaves are starting to get a little bit wilted, and so this is not a very ideal condition. Vegetables such as okra, bitter melon, which are coming from outside, Safflandra indica, or what do they call it? Cardo, I'm not sure. Cardo, yeah. So they all come from outside, and cardo will ripen just like that. So if you store it on the bench with 24 hours, it turns yellow. Then the quality is not good. It has to be used as a vegetable, but it's a very nice vegetable. So the transportation, the temperature management, the management in the store, those are the critical issues for the ethnic vegetables.
You see it's from Dominican Republic, it's from the food terminal, but there's some items like maybe 1 week I will get straight, 1 week I'll get from food terminal. It all varies back and forth. It depends on the season. It's always on the season. Sometimes it'll be very good produce. Sometimes, depending on the season change, you have to change locations. Then you have a little bit of a quality problem, but it's not much, especially coming from overseas.
Now, the quality, if it's how I like it, is another story. As, for example, the plantain, sometimes you go to the store and it's extremely ripe. And there's certain recipes that you can make with that, but I mean, the longevity of it, once you take it home, you have to use right away. So sometimes you have to be careful with things like plantain.
Sometimes you will find a taste difference, because it's traveled from such a far away, and some vegetables and fruits will not hold their value long.
They import the vegetable, especially the ethnic one, from Thailand, and we pay higher prices, like $5–6 a pound, because it comes by air. And we have a lot of Asian people in Guelph and in Ontario too, so we do need that kind of vegetable. It's a must in a store, in the veggie department.
This okra over here is an Indian okra. This is from India, and this is Mexico. Like, there's a little bit difference to it. Taste-wise, there's a big difference to it too. The fatter one here is from Mexico. This is Indian okra. This is not at its finest right now. Right now, India has a little, because the weather, it's getting a little bit getting cold there now. So it's not the best, but realistically, it should be this long and a little bit more fatter. And it's way more, it's usually more fresh than a Mexico one. But the problem with this, it comes by air. So it's very, very expensive to bring it in. And if it goes bad on the air, it's garbage when it gets here.
Well, it's a long journey from Uganda, so you have almost 24 hours because the food has to go through Europe. Then